Park shattered the world. A massive rock slide killed Emiliano Morales, who was just 19 years old. It almost killed them, too. Tonight, only on Channel 2, survivors of this circle of friends speak about their pain.
Good evening, everybody. Tales of terror and grief tonight from two survivors of that huge rock slide in Yosemite, the one that killed their friend. It's a story you'll see only here on Channel 2. And Thelma Gutierrez talked to the young people who survived. She joins us now with their very touching story. Thelma?
And it really is. Now, I talked to them just a short time ago, and two of the survivors told me that they're still trying to understand exactly what happened last Wednesday. On one hand, they're glad to be alive, but on the other, they're mourning their friend's death. It's a story that you'll see only on Channel 2. This is the story of 6 friends who did everything together. Their trip to Yosemite was supposed to be the highlight of their summer.
We drove up all the way. We kind of bonded.
Kelly Booth says nothing could separate them except for an act of God no one could predict.
I just remember hearing a noise like thunder, and I just didn't know what to do.
I saw the side of the mountain come down. At first it sounded like thunder. Saw the rocks fall.
Dan Cano and his girlfriend Kelly were right in the middle of the massive rock slide. What happened next changed their lives forever.
We saw the dust cloud coming over, and the girls and him were running. And
when the dust finally settled, this is what was left of the Happy Isle campground. Trees were plowed over like matchsticks. The snack shop where the friends were at was ripped apart by the air blast. And Kelly and Hisano Hamada and Emiliano Morales were pinned underneath a massive sequoia tree that had fallen on them.
I look at it and I'm thankful for being able to survive that, and God must really want me to, be here for some reason.
Kelly made it out with cuts and bruises over most of her body. Hisano has multiple fractures. She's still in a Modesto hospital.
She could answer questions with one blink as yes and 2 blinks as no. She really couldn't move any body parts, but I was holding her hand and talking to her.
And their friend Emiliano, he was killed instantly. He was only 19.
I just feel that he tried to save us.
I just remembered the good times I had with Emmy, and there were a lot of good times we had with him. And that's what that's what I hold on to, I mean, I'll never see him again this lifetime, but I know he's here with me.
And in just about an hour, Emiliano's friends will gather at Rose Hill Cemetery in Whittier for a memorial service. I'm Thelma Gutierrez, and back to you.
Very sad.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Friends who survived talked to our Eyewitness News reporter Henry Alfaro about those terrifying moments.
The family and friends of 20-year-old Emiliano Morales attended the rosary tonight at Rose Hills Memorial Chapel. Morales, a Loyola Marymount student, was crushed to death by a huge rock slide at Yosemite National Park. A slab of granite literally exploded off a Glacier Point cliff, sending a massive chunk of rock more than 2,000 feet into the valley below, creating a huge dust cloud. Morales had gone there with 5 other friends who said it was his first trip to Yosemite, and he was all excited to go hiking. It was while they were coming down from Emerald Pool that they heard the noise. Morales and Kelly Booth and another girl had stopped at a snack stand to look at the menu.
And we were looking at the menu when we heard a loud noise, which sounded like thunder. We looked up in the sky, there was no clouds, so we didn't know what to do. I don't remember what happened ever since, but they said they saw me running, trying to get away from there.
Danny Connor, who had known Morales since high school, said he was walking behind the group when the accident occurred.
I looked up and I saw the side of the mountain come down, saw the boulders come down. And then at a second or two after it hit, I saw the dust cloud come up. As soon as the dust cloud popped up, the 2 girls that I was with, we started running. And before we knew it, the dust cloud had overtaken us.
They described Morales as a person who loved people and always wanted to make others happy. That's the way, they said, they will always remember him. Henry Alfaro, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Just 2 hours ago, downtown Seattle returned to normal after evacuating a 9...
It's one thing, to lose your house,
running
even
wild.
though it's just stuff. This is my whole life.
A blinding blizzard.
What are we supposed to do?
Or a wildfire.
I didn't cry yet, but I know I will.
Nature can be beautiful,
but deadly. Tonight, a Dateline special, Nature's Wrath.
Caught in the path of a hurricane's final fury.
When we looked up, boom, here comes a tidal wave.
Watching helplessly as the raging water leaves rescuers in need of rescue.
I definitely knew we were in trouble once we went around the tree.
With waves swirling closer, how could they be reached in time?
The water started hitting your feet?
Yeah.
And you're 8 feet up in the tree?
Yeah.
Len Cannon, fighting the flood.
Yosemite in summer. A perfect day, a perfect vacation, until...
I heard a loud noise, which sounded like thunder.
A wall of rock the size of a football field is falling. And just below, lost in a cloud of dust, 6 teenagers running for their lives.
Did you think you were going to die?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be buried.
Keith Morrison, Rockslide.
Picture the world ending. That's the power of a volcano.
Don't look back, kids, don't look back!
Dante's Peak was fiction. Mount St. Helen was fact.
Here, the explosion we have long been fearing has occurred.
And experts say many more explosions may be on the way.
Is it possible we could have a disastrous eruption in our lifetime? Yes, we could.
John Larson on the violence of volcanoes.
What happens when nature's wrath goes to extremes?
In my place, I got a snowdrift from 50 to 20 foot high.
We've identified 116 heat-related fatalities in the last 3 days.
Could this dangerous weather be our fault?
We're performing an experiment on this lab. It's a lab, however, that happens to be Earth.
Scientists say we may be changing the climate. Robert Bazell looks into the future to tell us what that could mean.
Tonight, a Dateline special, Nature's Wrath. From Studio 3B in Rockefeller Center, here is Stone Phillips.
Good evening. Summer days, sunning at the beach, a winter weekend skiing in the mountains. For most of us, nature is for good times, but we know it can sometimes wear another face. Angry, violent, even deadly. Tonight, we'll take you as close as you can get to that other side of nature without getting hurt. You'll explore a volcano with a man who was standing in one the day it erupted. Witness a flood so furious, rescuers were left helpless, and see why this winter's extreme weather may only be a taste of things to come. But we start tonight with one of the most powerful forces on Earth, and what happens when man is at its mercy. Here's Keith Morrison.
I'd never been to Yosemite before and always heard how pretty it was.
On a warm Tuesday in July, 6 Los Angeles area teenagers celebrating summer freedom and friendship take off on a camping trip to one of the nation's most spectacular vacation spots, Yosemite National Park.
It was going to be the perfect trip, I guess.
Dan Cano is a 19-year-old college sophomore who goes on the trip with his close friends, Emmy, Kelly, and 3 others.
Really, for all of us, it was the first time we had done anything, anything closely like, a trip like that by ourselves.
It was supposed to be just like kind of bonding, sort of a bunch of friends going and enjoying themselves.
How could anyone know that waiting up there in the mountains, silent and unknown, disaster is looming, and they will soon feel its power. Now they feel only excitement, but as they set out for the park's many campsites, Emmy Morales' mother, Nellie, feels a strange cloud pass over.
The morning that he left, the moment he walked out the door, I just sat there and I heard his footsteps, and I just had this like empty feeling in me, like something was wrong, but I couldn't explain it.
Impossible, of course, that a mother's foreboding could be linked to invisible forces in an ancient rock face hundreds of miles away. The monument which that evening greets 6 travel-weary friends.
We were pretty much tired, so we didn't do really that much that evening. We were expecting to, get some good sleep, and then in the morning, that's when we were going to begin our vacation.
A brilliant morning, a day full of possibilities. July 10th.
After breakfast, Emmy and I decided to go skating. It felt really good, just hanging out with a close friend and doing something that you've always wanted to do.
Dan Cano and Emmy Morales met sophomore year in high school. Dan is pensive, quiet. Emmy, an outgoing artist, planning a career as a comic book illustrator.
So the two of you were really kind of dreaming that morning about what you wanted to do with life.
Yeah, really, we were, you know. And that's like the perfect place to do it, really.
But up on the mountain, the weight of centuries is shifting out of balance. A piece of rock about the size of a football field is loosening, unknown to the tourists far below.
After a while, Kelly brought up the idea of going on the hike. So he said, oh, wait up for us, and, you know, we got our backpack together.
They decide to climb the popular Mist Trail to Vernal Falls. They're full of energy as they work their way up the mountain, climbing trails that seem almost vertical.
It was a hard hike, but it was really pretty going up there. There's this one part on the Mist Trail where it's all green, and there's like a rainbow because the waterfall is right there. And it just looked like something from like Ireland or Wizard of Oz or something like that. It was just so pretty.
As the six friends run back down the mountain, Dan and two others fall behind. They're held up because one of them has a blister. Just before 7 p.m., Dan and his group are here. The other three are waiting here at the base of a 2,000-foot wall of granite. And at that moment, high above, the balance tips, the rock gives way.
Oh my God, Michael, it's right here. Oh my God! Don't run towards that, goddammit!
Yeah, we got a big old ball of dust coming, don't we?
When the slide occurred, it's felt at a campsite about a mile away, where one family captures it on a home video.
I ran to the door and looked out, and the noise was up, and next thing I thought was it must be an airplane going to crash.
But this is no plane crash. It's a huge rock slide. For centuries, cycles of freeze and thaw have caused the rock to crack and the slope to erode until finally it's weak enough for gravity to finish the job. Now, thick dust rushes toward the campsites across the park.
You need to get out?
No, we can't get out. We have to sit here. That's dirt running off the windshield.
The dust is so thick the campers can't leave, but at least they can get back to their mobile home.
You can almost start to see outside now. That's out the window towards the ground. Can't see anything there. We go over here and we'll show you on the picnic table. I don't know if you can see that, but
You guys ought to be covering your face.
it looks like it's snowed out there.
Campers all over the park are frantic, trying to get away from the slide. No one knows if the dust is toxic or if the rock is rolling toward them. All they know is it's blinding and choking. And the two groups of friends are now separated by a bridge, stumbling through the dust, trying to outrun the danger at their backs, desperately wondering if they will survive.
A race against rock when we return.
I thought I was going to be buried. That's how much dirt, and that's just one of my biggest scares. I thought I was being buried. I couldn't breathe.
Winner of 7 National Headliner Awards, awarded again and again for excellence in journalism. Dateline NBC will be right back. Here now is Jane Pauley.
Returning to our story, 6 teenagers visiting Yosemite on a summer vacation have been caught in a massive rock slide. 3 trapped on one side of a bridge, 3 on the other. Before the day is done, one of them will be dead. Once again, here's Keith Morrison.
We were about to cross the bridge and heard a loud noise, which sounded like thunder. I looked up at the sky to see if there are any clouds or if it was going to start to rain or something. And that's when I saw the rocks coming down.
As the mountainside cuts loose, Dan is on the far side of the bridge with his friends Tina and Renee.
I remember feeling the ground shake when the rocks hit. And then we saw the dust cloud and just started running.
You're afraid for your life.
Yeah, basically. And then, just thinking, I hope they're doing the same thing that we're doing on the other side.
But they aren't. Dan watches helplessly as the other group is swallowed up and disappears, trapped by the ravenous landslide.
When I first started running, I looked over my shoulder, and again, I just saw Kelly and Emmy, and then the dust cloud came over them.
Kelly, Emmy, and a third friend, Hisano, were standing just over 50 feet away, right below the mountain. The snack shop where Kelly's group had been standing is demolished. She is sliced in her head and face with bits of glass and debris from both the snack shop and the rock slide.
I thought I was going to be buried, and that's just one of my biggest scares. I thought I was being buried. I couldn't breathe.
You remember that feeling?
Yeah, I do remember that feeling. I was like panicking.
Did you think you were going to die?
Yeah.
It was only later that scientists were able to measure the awesome force of the rock that came down from the mountain. 162,000 tons of granite tumbled for 12 seconds from a height of more than 2,000 feet. And when it hit behind me here, it had the force of 80,000 cars hitting the Indianapolis wall at full throttle. It had a force 50 times the explosion in Oklahoma City. It pulverized the granite at the bottom to make it look like talcum powder, which was then hurled through the forest with the force of a hurricane wind.
Inside the dust cloud, it's black and gritty. The teens can't find each other. There are downed trees and debris in their paths because the slide created a blast of wind that cut a deadly path through the park, taking 500 trees with it, stripping the bark off others as it goes by. Back on the other side of the bridge, Dan finds himself alone.
I started calling for the other 5 in the group, and I went through all their names, and I didn't hear anything.
And what about you two? You ran too, but separate directions or together?
We're like 3 feet apart. We were just running, and we just stopped as soon as the cloud overtook us.
Dan hears a male voice and thinks it's Emmy's. It isn't. Instead, it's another hiker caught in the cloud. Together, they run blindly through the dust until they end up at the water's edge. There, they dip their shirts in the river and place them over their faces so at least they can breathe. A badly injured Kelly does not see Emmy, but she does find one other in her group, Hisano, cut and bleeding, trapped under a huge tree.
She said when the tree fell, like, she thought her legs were sticking straight up in the air, but they weren't.
Kelly is now only able to remember parts of the accident. And even those parts, she says, she remembers as if in a dream, especially the part about Hisano.
Do you remember realizing how badly hurt she was?
No. I remember she did say, "I'm paralyzed. I think I'm paralyzed."
Kelly's childhood friend is partially paralyzed. Rescuers are able to pull away some of the debris around her, and Hisano is airlifted to a nearby hospital. Searchers are also able to rescue Kelly. She's taken by ambulance to Yosemite's medical center. Carrie Roth, her nurse that night.
When she came in, she looked like a mannequin with bandages on because all the people that came in with this rock slide, they did not have any skin showing. It was all a very thick layer of dust.
At the medical clinic, Kelly keeps asking for her friend.
I remember her asking about Emmy, and we all thought it was a female, and like an Emily.
Soon after 11 p.m., all but one of the friends are accounted for, injured but alive. They alert park officials that Emmy is still out there. And Emmy's parents call repeatedly, trying to find out anything at all about the whereabouts of their missing son.
Dan's father called us and told us there had been an accident up in Yosemite and that the kids were involved.
They do find Emmy that night, but they do not find him alive. The teenagers are told at 1:30 a.m.
I probably just sat there for a couple of minutes, and that's all I did was just sit there.
No one could believe it, but a tree hundreds of years old had crushed Emmy beneath it. It happened so fast, he had no chance to escape.
They did tell us that he didn't suffer. At least they don't think he did, because it was just so instantaneous.
Emmy's body is recovered the next day, and in the daylight, the damage wreaked by the slide is unbelievable. The size of the trees that fell is amazing, the destruction astonishing. Park officials say if the rock slide had occurred even 3 hours earlier, when the Happy Isles area is usually more crowded, the toll would have been much higher. Miraculously, of the 20,000 campers in the area, there is only one fatality. But that is of little comfort to the family of Emmy Morales.
It's very hard. Sometimes I still think he's away in school and he'll be walking through that door. And then after you realize he's not. And it's just something very hard to accept.
Most of Yosemite is as beautiful as ever, but when you go by the bridge that leads to Happy Isles, You'll witness the pain and fury of nature, a mother's emptiness, and a friend's longing.
Physically, he isn't here, but he will, stay in me. You know, everything that we went through, everything that we talked about, you know, everything that he did, it's like, it'll always be a part. So, in a way, you don't really lose him, but you do.
Emmy Morales was the 10th person to die at Yosemite in 1996. A Park Service spokesman says 94% of Yosemite is wilderness, and people forget there are always risks in visiting the wild.
Coming up next, we're having dramatic weather, dangerous weather.
We just keep a tunnel to get out of the house. That's our only exit right now.
I've asked